As of the latest state report, 38% of Nebraska's pasture and rangeland was rated as poor or very poor. That's certainly not ideal, but it's much better than where we were at this time last year when nearly 60% was rated in those worst two categories. But with summer heat, missing precipitation could drag grasses into rougher shape and force producers to make management decisions. Rick Rasby joined us in the R.B. Warren Arena this week to discuss early weaning calves and if 2013 is putting farmers and ranchers into last year's situation of surviving until fall corn stalks become available.
Well, I tell you what, it depends on what end of the state you're on. Boy, if you're on the eastern end of the state, boy, we've received timely rains and pastures really look pretty good. But as you move further west, boy, the pastures look a lot more challenged at this time of year, especially due to the fact we haven't had any rain out there.
If you were to think about early weaning, then you'd have to take it on a case-by-case basis. How would you evaluate your pasture?
You really would, yeah. Take a look at it. A lot of times the amount of moisture that we receive, in April and May will dictate the amount of grass production that we have later on in the year. And so a lot of folks have already done that, and those assessments probably have been made. But some folks have assessed that they aren't going to have enough grass to carry all their pairs through the summer. And so right now they're really thinking about early weaning and probably a good management strategy.
What are the things that they need to keep in mind when they do that? Maybe some easy things right away.
Yeah, the thing that I would think about first is, man, are the calves old enough to really early wean successfully? And you can actually early wean calves at a fairly young age. But if you think about it, if you had your last calf, or not you, but if your cows had their last calf May 1, August 1, they're going to be about 90 days of age. And so that would be a good time to if you're going to early wean, that would be an okay kind of an age to early wean at. Youngest calf being about 90 days post-calving. The other thing is that when you think about early weaning, and if you're going to keep those calves on your location, you've really got to have a high-quality diet for them to make sure that they continue to move, continue to grow. And right now on the cow, they'll probably be growing about 2 pounds per head per day. So you need to develop a nice high-quality diet to meet that kind of growth rate.
What about in conditions where it's not necessarily all or none? If you're only going to wean a few.
Yeah, I've gotten that question a number of times, and they've gone out and evaluated their pastures, and they've said, well, I've got enough grass to get part of my pairs all the way to whatever kind of fall-winter feeding program that I might have. And so when you think about that kind of a thing, you might think about some strategic early weaning, if you will. And the ones that I would have you think about, if you can do that, have to do that, young cows would be the ones that you'd want to wean those calves off of. At least go out and take a look at the first and second calvers. They're the ones that are probably most compromised in these kinds of conditions. And so if you're going to think about strategic in regards to early weaning, had enough grass to get some pairs through the summer, not all of them, I'd probably go out and take a look at early weaning the young cows.
Are we in a position where we need to think about culling again this year, or is that an individual basis as well?
I tell you what, we've gone pretty deep the last year and a half or so, and so the thing would be is that you wouldn't want to carry in kind of open cows any further than you needed to, and so if you're 40 days post breeding season, which probably we aren't quite there yet for most spring calving herds. Preg checking as early as possible to make sure that you're not feeding expensive feed into females that don't have a calf in them. Probably would be a good management strategy. But I probably wouldn't think about preg checking those, or at least moving those cattle, gathering those cattle probably until 35, 40 days after you've pulled the bulls.
I don't know what you've seen, but traveling north last weekend, I saw a lot of pastures that were already cut for the grass and then baled up. Is that something that you think might be an option to do if you haven't done it yet and have that grass available?
The thing is that in some areas there's really quite a bit of grass out there, and so the idea of being able to harvest that grass, put it up as a bale, and then have it available to feed later on in the fall and winter would be a good option. The other thing is that if you graze some that grass, sometimes you get a lot of trampling going on in there, and so if you're going to be short on pasture and you don't want to go ahead and put the cows out there and let them trample maybe half of it in, putting it up as hay might be a good option.